The Mario franchise is typically known to be like Mario himself, happy-go-lucky and ready to jump into the next challenge. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything in the series is all shine sprites and rainbow roads. Mario still has his fair share of dark moments. Death is still a big part of the series, and while it is often done for some comedic value, it still can be pretty gruesome. So the question is, which deaths in the Mario universe are truly the most brutal of them all? I'm Kyle with 1UP Binge, and this is Super Mario Deaths Gruesome to Most Gruesome. As usual, we'll be starting with the least gruesome deaths and working our way up to the most brutal. Our first entry is all of the Bowsers, both fake and real, in the original Super Mario Bros. Game for the NES. This death happens at the end of each castle. The catch is that all the Bowsers, aside from the last one, are simply disguised minions. This becomes apparent if they're defeated with fireballs, but we're ranking it low in large part due to the fact that it's an early game. The graphics of the 1980s, while still impressive for the time, had a limit. The deaths here have them falling into lava and their facial expressions don't change. As a result, the impact of their deaths is very minimal. Now, there are many enemies that Mario and friends encounter a lot over the course of their adventures. So the many deaths of these quote-unquote common enemies are all being placed here. Sure, there are some relatively gruesome ways that these enemies, such as Goombas and Koopas, can die in each game. The trick is that they happen so often that it becomes white noise and doesn't really faze anyone anymore. But here's what helps edge this entry over the previous. Their deaths are lost to history and a conflict much larger than themselves, which is pretty dark. Not only do many of them die, but they're pretty much forgotten about the moment it happens. And it doesn't seem like Bowser even cares about his own troops all that much, which is actually weirdly sad. The next entry is, in a sense, the same character dying twice around the same time. We're referring to regular and Paper Bowser Jr. from Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. If we could absolutely confirm their death, this moment might have been placed much higher. At worst, their deaths can be presumed. The last moment we see of these two together, they're being held in each of their father's arms, weakly trying to speak. We don't really see much of them at all after this. At best, it can be assumed the paper version got returned to his own world, and the 3D version got revived and healed at some point. It could also be like what Miracle Max said in Princess Bride. They could only be mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
It's also been shown in other games that resurrection is possible, so them dying and coming back to life isn't out of the question. Bowser Jr. isn't done just yet, because this next one involves Bowser and all the Koopalings in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. This happens during the final cutscene after the credits. Larry Koopa is struggling to move, and then Bowser Jr. comes along, showing him that the rest are trying to get an unconscious Bowser on his stomach. Moments after they do, the castle they were just in starts to collapse and fall on top of them. If the screen didn't fade to black right before the impact, this might have ranked a bit higher. Not to mention that Bowser Jr. and Larry could potentially survive given how far away they were. Overall, the way this cutscene plays out actually makes us laugh more than grimace. We could definitely see someone adding goofy sound effects to it too. The Koopas get a break, for now, because our next entry goes to Gooper Blooper from Super Mario Sunshine. This boss is fought multiple times, but it can be assumed he dies the third time you fight him. While ripping off his limbs makes it more painful, it's also an optional tactic. You still need to stretch out his corked mouth and launch him like a slingshot. Earlier fights allow him to land in water or graffiti. The final fight, however, implies that he lands headfirst on a hard surface further below. Much like the previous entry, if we actually saw the impact, Gooper's ranking might have been higher up. The other Sunshine enemy that we want to bring attention to is Petey Piranha. Petey has been defeated or killed in other games before, but this one takes Peach's cake. Given that this game's gimmick is Mario's Flood Pack, it is needed in order to defeat him. Petey gets filled with so much water that his belly literally inflates, and he can't stand anymore. After getting his stomach slammed on multiple times, he melts into graffiti and completely dissolves away. What makes it worse is that this happens in the game twice. Once would have been crazy enough, but Petey dies 2 separate times in the exact same way, in relatively quick succession. He does get filled with water yet again in Super Princess Peach, but he doesn't melt away that time. Our next entry is quite literally out of this world because Tyranitar's death in Super Mario Galaxy happens in outer space. This creepy-looking spider thing fights you on his web while trying to spray you. After flipping him over and hitting his underside enough times, he gets launched into the distance. It would have been bad enough if he was just sent into the emptiness of space forever, but he gets launched straight at the sun, though it's hard to tell if he reaches the sun or not before he dies. Either way, he definitely exploded, and possibly got burned alive instantly by that sun. Regardless of his exact cause of death, you can guarantee he won't be surfing the web again anytime soon. Probably for the best given what the internet is capable of. Bowser returns here, as his death in New Super Mario Bros. Is next. Bowser does get brought back to life at the end of the game, but his death sequence near the beginning is kinda sad. After defeating him in the classic way, Bowser falls into the lava. This time around, he actually struggles to get back out. In a very short time, he comes back up again as nothing but bones before sinking again. Many Mario characters and enemies die by falling in lava, but very few are seen trying to get back out and are actually shown dead soon after. Bowser isn't the only one who gets cooked alive in this series. Kukateel from Mario Odyssey is another example of it. Using a giant cooking pot as the arena, Mario fights Kukateel here as a lava bubble. Using his own attacks to reach her, Mario bonks her on the head a handful of times. Upon defeat, she struggles to stay in the air before falling into the very food she was making, being cooked alive. What makes it worse is that she manages to come back later, only for the exact same thing to happen again. I wonder what a properly cooked Kukateel wing would taste like. Bowser's final entry on this list takes place in Super Mario 3D Land. Like his previous entry, he falls into the lava and struggles to get out. Upon sinking this time, a little skull cloud appears, implying his death. Near the very end of the game, he has come back for one more showdown. This time, upon defeat, he falls from much higher up. Not only this, but before he lands in lava again, he gets bonked on the head while falling. After he does land in lava, a couple seconds go by and then he explodes. He dies twice in this game, with the second being so much worse. Though it is kind of funny that his second death is very similar to when Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff. These next two are the big baddies of their games, and they die in almost identical ways. They are Cackletta and Elder Princess Shroob from the Mario and Luigi series. Both are shown to be powerful threats, refusing to quit after their first defeat. They each decided to possess Bowser afterwards, transforming him in some way and making him stronger. This is made especially apparent with how Cackletta makes Bowser look. It's certainly interesting. After being defeated yet again, both of their spirits are shown to either fizzle away or explode, respectively. Technically, they both died twice, and it is still slightly amusing that they ended up falling in a very similar fashion. Two more RPG-based villains that die in a similar fashion to each other are Fawful and Dementio, from their respective series. Both have more than one fight with our heroes. After being defeated in each of their final fights, only their heads remain, which is already kind of morbid. Fawful does have one last stand in his case, but he gets defeated anyways. After each of their final defeats, they undergo an explosive death. The only real difference at this point is that Fawful blows himself up on purpose as a last resort. Two explosive head deaths for the price of one. Bowser might be done with his entries on this list, but the Koopalings have their last one up next. This one coming from Super Mario World. The deaths of each of the Koopalings may not have seemed so bad originally. Their deaths boil down to falling in lava or exploding after flying backwards. What cements them this high on the list, more so than any of the other Koopa-based deaths, is the story behind it. The debate nowadays as to whether or not the Koopalings are actually Bowser's kids is still being discussed by several people. It goes back and forth about as much as a mother and possible father do on The Maury Show. However, when they were introduced in this game, that is Super Mario World on the SNES, many more people presumed that Bowser is the father. Just the idea that Bowser's kids, even if it was only a possibility, being murdered one by one, as Mario goes on his Liam Neeson mission to rescue the princess from their dad, is definitely pretty dark. While this next entry doesn't happen in a Mario-specific game, it still happens to a major Mario character, Luigi in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Before more recent Smash Bros. Games came out, fun little trailers were made for each of the new characters that were joining the roster in order to help people get more excited. Being featured in the trailer revealing Simon and Richter Belmont, Luigi is seen walking through Castlevania, similar to how he would in the Luigi's Mansion games. Upon meeting the Castlevania iteration of Death, said monster uses his scythe to kill Luigi, removing his soul from his body. There is a brief flash right at impact, but we still bear witness to Luigi's spirit leaving his body. Additionally, his body is seen limp on the ground, while his spirit flies around briefly. Thankfully, this doesn't last too long before Luigi's spirit returns to his body, but that brief moment of actual death had a major shock value to many people that first saw the trailer. Now, the last 3 entries we'll talk about may not be as flashy or as visually brutal as a few of our other entries, but these top 3 rank high due to the impact their death has on the story, players, other characters, or just how dark and sad they are with their respective context. Taking the bronze medal for gruesome deaths is Bobby the Bob-omb from Paper Mario: The Origami King. This particular Bob-omb is actually an interesting and sad case. Unlike most Bob-ombs that are considered foes, Bobby is actually an ally of Mario's. For a little while, he seems to suffer from amnesia and doesn't even have a fuse. Obviously, most Bob-ombs die by blowing up, and there's certainly no exception here. The impact is left by the fact that Bobby did this of his own free will, after getting his fuse and knowing another character, Olivia, was trapped under a giant boulder. He blew himself up to destroy it. Mario is even shown trying to run and stop him before he does this. This sacrifice left a big impact on Mario and Olivia, both showing deep emotion after the fact. Mario can then find a spirit among the rubble, where Bobby speaks to him one last time. The self-sacrificing explosion already made it gruesome, but the way the game showed these other characters' reactions, especially with both music and silence, made the blast hurt to watch even more. Speaking of Olivia though, Olivia herself takes the silver medal on our list. Perhaps she was motivated by Bobby's actions, but she too ends up sacrificing herself. In this case, after confronting Ollie, the Origami King himself, Mario and Olivia square off with him. After defeating him, Ollie eventually sees what he has done was wrong. He then asks Olivia to turn him into the last crane for the 1,000 crane technique. Upon this being done, Olivia is allowed one wish. She uses it to undo all the origami done by Ollie. Earlier in the game, we discover that Ollie made Olivia himself. This means that, when she made the wish, she was sacrificing herself in order to restore an entire kingdom. Most games that have a major character sacrifice themselves near the end of the story make sure it hits and hits hard. Anyone who witnesses these types of events in a game are typically hit right in the feels. It's certainly no exception here. There is an ending that shows her sitting on a throne next to Ollie, but it appears more so that this version of her isn't actually alive. Finally, our gold medal for most gruesome death goes to probably one of the most infamous. And this is primarily because it happens to one of the most lovable characters in the entire franchise, Yoshi. Now, a lot of you may be wondering why Yoshi is getting the top placement. After all, he doesn't typically undergo the more severe causes of death as most other characters do. He usually just falls into a pit, which is sometimes bottomless and sometimes filled with lava or something else. Here's the thing, Yoshi has done nothing wrong. Yoshi is an ally to the heroes and always will be. So why are there players who are monsters who decide to use Yoshi as an extra platform or a meat shield? This alone makes his death so much worse since it can easily be prevented. He does his best to help the heroes reach their goal, even putting up with Baby Mario's infamous crying at one point while doing so. He does everything right, he tries his best, he has a heart of gold, and yet he's still treated like an expendable creature. This is like the Nintendo equivalent of punting a golden retriever into oncoming traffic. Why would there ever be someone so heartless as to treat this adorable, selfless ally like something they can just throw to the wayside when it's convenient for them? There are times when people just dump him into lava for no reason whatsoever. To make matters worse, there are psychopaths who purposefully design levels in the Mario Maker games where you're forced to sacrifice poor Yoshi just to complete the level. This is all probably the greatest injustice in the Super Mario universe. But let us know which Super Mario death you felt was the most gruesome and brutal. We want to hear your thoughts. And if you need a one-up, make sure to hit that notification bell and binge more of our Nintendo videos. Thanks for watching.